Session blood.
Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. We're in 2021. 2020's done and dusted.
Yeah, and what a year it's been for Flesh and Blood. 2020 has been, probably in the situation that we were in, it was probably the best year that could have been for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, it's really strange because obviously it was a really difficult year for a lot of people and have to acknowledge that, but it's just, I think, a testament to how good a game Flesh and Blood is that despite all the lockdowns, despite not being able to play in person, the game still not only thrived, but sort of massively blew up, I think.
Yeah,
so.
And to be honest, it blew all my expectations of what could have happened in the current circumstances.
Yeah, so today we just want to kick things off with our favourite thing we always do, a few community shoutouts, and then we'll sort of get into what we're talking about in the episode for today. So the first shout-out I wanted to give today was to Vincent Dojo, who actually won. There was a Blitz tournament sponsored by Radio Reflex, some great content creators, check them out, for a Christmas event, and Vincent managed to take that down on Kano, the Wizard.
Yeah, the Wizard and Blitz, it's what a threat.
It's an interesting deck, and I was just, Vincent's a really great guy, so I was stoked that he managed to win that tournament, and he managed to take down the mighty Matt Rogers in the semi-final, which is no easy feat, so congratulations, Vincent.
Yeah, well played. It was awesome to see, to see you take it down.
And we had one more that you
I wanted to give a shout out to Tower Number 9, who's been, a prominent not only player but also a tournament organizer. I think that's, especially in these times, it's really important. It's really nice and it's great to see people kind of take the initiative and find ways to get people together and play the game, especially in areas that are under lockdown. I think his league has been kind of, you have players from US and UK, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's people from, US and UK mainly, but I think other players from Europe. And they've had some sort of massive TTS ladder, and I think there was an online armory the other day with like 28 people.
Yeah.
If you want to check out some of those videos, he actually has a Twitch channel where he has some games streamed with commentary from the tournament, and I definitely recommend checking those out. So massive shout out to you, and we really respect all the work you're doing, so keep it up.
And if you want to find out more, he also has the website towernumber9.com. There's a lot of like coverage there as well. But I actually have a surprise shout out as well.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to. I want to give a massive shout out to Kieran because he's the one who came up with the idea to start the podcast. He's been kind of like the driving force behind Session Blood from the start, and it's an extreme honor to be sitting with not only a person who wants to share his knowledge of the game, but is extremely accomplished of the game. This is, he's ranked second in the world, and he's sitting here just kind of like explaining to me as well on how to play the game. So a massive shout out to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I feel I'd like to also give a little shout out back as well. And so say, for people who don't know, like all the work sort of behind the scenes, like the video editing, the card pop-ups, all the things that make the podcast actually look good is a lot of Carol's work. I'd be a bit lost. I'm hopeless at video editing, so it would not exist in this form without him. So, and also the only reason I did sort of pretty well at New Zealand Nationals was because Carol built this deck. Unfortunately, he couldn't go because his daughter was born, so he kind of showed me all the tech, gave me the deck list, taught me how to play it, so thank you very much as well.
Yeah, no worries.
And aren't we just good people? So moving along to some giveaways. So we wanted to do our first Patreon giveaway today. So we really appreciate just the support our patrons have given us to sort of taking a chance and saying, we want to support some of the content you make for a relatively small or newish channel. So we really appreciate all of you. And so today what we wanted to do is do a giveaway.
Yeah, so we have all the names here of all our patrons. And we will be putting this in a bit of a hat, but this Session Blood hat. And, this is kind of what we... what you can get out of this giveaway. So we're going to give away one Session Blood hat, and LSS has been just amazing at kind of giving us a lot of these goodies, and we just want to give back to the community because, you know,
we don't like playmats.
We've got a lot of playmats ourselves, and we think someone else can benefit from this a lot. Yeah,
exactly, because we see that playmats are sort of a little bit hard to find internationally, I think, just with the lack of armories, that sort of thing. So, like we said, we've got enough playmats ourselves. We wanted to give it back.
Yeah, so we have the hat, we have the playmat, and we'll chuck in some boosters as well.
Yeah, and I think 3 packs of Welcome to Wrath Unlimited.
Yeah, and right. Let's chuck it in there.
Let's do this. Okay,
let's do it live. All right. Yeah. You can see it's a very legitimate process. We came up with it just before the podcast, and yeah.
Okay, do you want to give those a bit of a shuffle round?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll close my eyes and dip my hand in.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's the?
And the lucky winner is.
And the winner is. Eric. So.
There you go, Eric.
Congratulations, Eric. We'll be in touch with you just to get your details, and we'll get the hat, the playmat, and the booster sent out to you. And just a quick update to the winners of our previous giveaway. We have got your prizes on the way. Unfortunately, shipping is a little bit slow around this time of the year, so we're not exactly sure when those will turn up, but they should turn up. So.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Eric, we'll send this out as soon as we can. And also, we had an idea of doing another bit of a giveaway in the spirit of, starting a new year in Flesh and Blood. We're going to give the same prizes for somebody who leaves basically, the idea is that you leave a comment on our YouTube video, on this YouTube video, in the comment section, and basically you can tell us what is your kind of expectation or the one thing that you really want to see happen in Flesh and Blood in 2021.
Yeah, so the thing you're most looking forward to, so it could be anything like I'm really wanting to see this class come out in like Monarch, for example, or I'm looking forward to organized play, to nationals in my country, anything like that. Feel free to get creative, and we'll pick our favorite answer from the YouTube comments, and we'll announce the winner on the next podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we can get started into what we're talking about, which is going to be a bit of a summary, I guess, of 2020, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing in 2021 as well.
Yeah, we'll get into the flesh and blood of the episode now.
Yeah.
So I guess we wanted to, so like Carol mentioned, maybe a brief summary of some things that have happened in 2020. So I think one of the big things was at the start of the year, at least here in New Zealand, we had a number of Road to Calling events, and then the Constructed Calling itself. And that was really fun for us. We've probably spoken about it before on the podcast, but we haven't played competitive card games for a long time.
Yeah, and that was something that, we had 100 players there. The atmosphere was insane, especially that was kind of like the first proper high-level tournament that I've attended. Kieran's done a bunch of other kind of card game
here and there,
tournaments here and there, but it was just the vibe and the excitement and the kind of hunger to perform at the competitive stage was insane, and it was just great to see the players in person as well.
Yeah, it was really cool. I felt because with like a newer card game, even now if you're getting into the game, it feels like you're getting in kind of on the ground floor before it's massively gone up. And I was saying it's one of the tournaments that I've done a lot of practice for, and a high-level tournament that I walked in, and I felt like I actually, if I play really well, I actually have like a legitimate chance at maybe top 8 or winning this whole thing. So
yeah, and it was a nice, for me personally, it was a nice change from other card games where I felt completely in control, and I didn't perform as well as I wanted to, but there were clear reasons for that, and I think I learned a lot from that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you go in and you prep for 6 weeks for a tournament, you walk in and round 1 you draw 1 land and lose kind of thing. So that was really exciting for us. So we had the calling, which sort of kicked off, I think, a big competitive thing here, and then we went into the COVID lockdown, so I know there've been a lot of those around the world, and it was really great to see the community members just of their own volition starting up TTS, Tabletop Simulator, making a mod for Flesh and Blood, to, and obviously we all like playing in person more, that's our favorite thing, but when you don't have that option, it's just being able to continue the community and play online and keep the game going was a real highlight for me, doing some online leagues and everything like that, which people are still doing now. And then I guess we moved on to, we started having road to nationals in a few countries that were able to hold them.
Yeah.
So we had them in New Zealand, Taiwan, and Malaysia, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. We had Arcane Rising come out earlier on in the year, sort of bring on a whole new aspect of gameplay with arcane damage.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I still remember kind of like watching the spoilers for Arcane Rising, and the first thing I saw was Voltic Bolt, and I was just like, how does this work into what we've got from Welcome to Wraith? So it's cool to see that all tie in.
It's like, wait, I can't block it with my cards? What does that mean?
Yeah,
so we had Arcane Rising come out, and then we had Crucible of War, which right before sort of New Zealand National, so it was great fun trying to figure out all the best decks before then.
Yeah, and that was interesting. For us here, I mean, I didn't have a chance to compete in the Nelson Road to Nationals, where it literally, the tournament was a day or two after Crucible became legal. So we saw these people get really innovative to try and come up with, an updated list for this high-level tournament.
Yeah, and then I suppose between all that, at some point we started up our podcast and channel around sort of June or July or so. So yeah, that was really good fun. We just kind of started with like, we'll just sit down and talk about Flesh and Blood, and then we just put my phone down, had a chat about it, and then we did a few TTS gameplay videos, and it's been really cool to get some good feedback from the community over that time, and just seeing sort of more and more people jump in, and so that's awesome. We appreciate all of you.
And then, like, I guess the big kind of kahuna is the 2 nationals events that we've had, and that is something that I really look forward to in the future, is to see more of these pop up in other areas of the world. But we're lucky enough here in New Zealand and also in Taiwan to have a nationals event. And for me in particular, it's really interesting to see those regional kind of meta games develop. You look at the lists from New Zealand, then you look at the list from Taiwan, and you're just like, wow, it's like the players, there's obviously some similarities in how you approach the game, but kind of their own tech and approach to the game is just so much different, I find.
And I think that's something we've spoken about before as well, that I think in Flesh and Blood it's sometimes hard to get a true idea of the deck just from looking at the deck list. So there'll be kind of like tech cards here and there that people run. I remember I saw some of the warrior lists from out of, I think, Taiwan even. We saw people running 3 Command and Conquers and even like 1 Pummel, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
And like a lunging press and like some defense reactions we might not see. And just sometimes it's one of those things where you look at it at first glance and it's tempting to say like, what if they don't understand the decks, or like they don't understand how it's built, but then you think, if I'm playing this metagame, completely different metagame every day with a lot more things like Guardian and Ninja and other decks that don't pop up so much here in New Zealand, it actually makes a lot more sense. And even playing against, we've spoken about before for strategies, like if you're playing against certain players who you expect to do really well and make the top 4 or top 8, you might actually gear your deck a little bit more towards actually beating those.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right.
Because you might think, not only do I want to like make the top 8, I want to win this whole tournament. And like, if I know that this guy plays a certain way, then maybe I'll switch it up and do something to throw them off.
Exactly, and that's a big thing, is like you start targeting players and not classes. You obviously have your matchup sorted, but then you learn how the people you kind of look out for in tournaments, how they play their classes, and figuring out how to beat a certain class can be different for beating one player than the other player, even though they're playing the same hero. That was really cool, and that's definitely something that I can't wait to see how that kind of shapes in the different areas of the world. Yeah,
and then so we had the Taiwan National Championships, which were really cool. I think Mech won that. I think a Mechanologist deck won that.
I think it was Warrior.
It was Warrior in the end?
Yeah, okay. I think so, yeah.
Go Warrior.
It was, I believe it was the Warrior with like 3 snags, and I was just, I looked at that list, I was like, wow, that's so cool.
And then we had, I suppose, the big event, at least for us, was New Zealand Nationals down here. Mm-hmm. So we had, I think, close to 100 people turn up. Mm-hmm. And one little fun trivia fact that it was held in our capital city, Wellington, at the Wellington Bridge Club. Mm-hmm. And I believe James was saying that was the first Magic the Gathering Nationals he ever attended was at the Wellington Bridge Club. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to sort of bring it back full circle and, you know, host the first New Zealand Nationals of a game he created and loves right back at the sort of his card journey began. So
yeah, a little bit of an homage.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool as well. Yeah. And it was great just seeing a whole huge group of competitive players taking it really seriously. And, you know, just getting to meet all the people and having a bit of fun.
Yeah, and for me, kind of from a more community standpoint, I don't think I've ever made as many friends like that, you know, I can just have the best conversations with and, you know, the best kind of community vibes than this year. I mean, last year. You know, in 2020, I've just met so many great people, and it's all thanks to the game.
Yeah, and I think one good thing is the community is, I feel, really positive and really encouraging for everyone, and it'd be really good to see that continue. You know, you see a new player, I always see new players post on the fan page or asking about deck lists or cards, and there's always people jumping in trying to give them a hand rather than putting them down. So keep up the good work, everyone, because I think that's really important as the game just gets bigger and better as we go into 2021 to really have that sort of welcoming mindset.
Yeah, and talking about 2021, let's dive into kind of what you can expect from us and I guess from the game as well in the up and coming months.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really kind of, you know, here in New Zealand we have the calling, which is took a bit of a different approach than last year where it's really focused on the Blitz. Blitz is kind of, you know, LSS is really pushing the format as it's a great format for people to learn to play, and it also it's really testing when it comes to strategy. You know, I felt quite confident in the kind of classic constructed, and as soon as I switched to Blitz, I was like, okay, well, I know how to play classic constructed, and I'll just take my deck, trim down a third of it, and play Blitz, and it just doesn't work like that. It's just so different, in my opinion, when you kind of enter that kind of competitive level.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool because I think a lot of people, including myself here, to be perfectly honest, were like a little bit cautious about Blitz at first. You know, I was thinking, 40 cards, 20 life, like no sideboarding, like this isn't the good old-fashioned like classic constructed that I'm used to. You know, playing a 50-minute thriller. But I think after sort of giving it a chance, and I really commend LSS for making the upcoming calling Blitz, because I think that's really driven a lot of competitive play in New Zealand to be like purely Blitz focused, which I think is really good. I know it's different in other countries around the world, but because we had nationals with Crucible of War here, without the focus on Blitz, it's just sort of rehashing a format that we've already played quite a lot. And another great thing about Blitz is it's really good for armory events. So whether it be online armories or once, you know, in-person play opens up around the world more, being able to go to an armory, play 4 rounds of 30 minutes each, even you have a prize giving at the end, you know, you turn up and everything's done within 2.5 hours max. And like Carol mentioned as well, it's a really, really good way to learn a new class, or just, you know, if I want to play Runeblade or I want to play Wizard, I'll turn up to an armory and I get to play 4 games in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of those lessons, I mean, it's a very different format than Classic Constructed, but I do feel a lot of the lessons from Blitz actually do transfer over to Constructed as well.
Exactly. I've found myself kind of look at the game in a new way. When kind of going back into Classic Constructed, I feel like I'm a lot more prepared for the kind of, you know, the different ways in which you can take the game from the things I learned from Blitz. I feel like I've definitely improved as a player thanks to Blitz, because, you know, at first you kind of see this as a kind of inferior format to Classic Constructed as a competitive player because of all the things Kieran mentioned. But then when you play it out, it's like, oh wow, like, you know, just learning how to set things up and kind of playing more than the 4 or 5 card hands that you're given. it becomes a lot clearer, and you get rewarded for that a lot more in Blitz, I find.
Yeah.
And it does transfer over to Classic Constructed.
Absolutely, and just a breath of fresh air seeing a few like new heroes in there. Mm-hmm. So we've seen Ira, which has been pretty dominant, but we've also seen decks like Control KO with doubling up your attacks. And a little personal challenge for me, if anyone can win one of these online armory events with, say, 10 or more people, if anyone wins it with Data Doll, and you've got proof, send it to me. I'll get a special prize out to you, because that is one deck I've not cracked at all yet.
Yeah, there's a lot still to discover, and yeah, the kind of extra heroes give that complexity to the metagame. And we do want to kind of focus on some of these top tier lists that have been popping up. I mean, you know, the most predominant ones that we have seen perform well is Ira Control and Wizard.
Yep.
I feel like those are kind of in a league of their own. Then you have things like Brute and Warrior and
bit of Katsu here and there sometimes, not so much.
Yeah, and the KO Control list that Kieran has been talking about. So there's a few contenders for that as well, and what we want to do is, you know, we're testing for the calling ourselves. We want to prepare the best we can, and so I'm thinking maybe we can chuck in some of those videos, recorded videos of our kind of testing, and chuck it up on YouTube for people to see those matchups. You know, Ira Control versus Wizard, Wizard Mirror, Ira Control Mirror, maybe some Brute versus Ira, some Warrior versus Ira, stuff like that.
OTK Rimblade, things like that. Yes, legit. It's not a bad deck.
Ranger Control. It's a contender.
Yeah, so it's a soft contender movie. Yeah, so basically that's one of the things we would like to do on our channels, because we've had quite a good response to some of the Blitz videos we put up so far, so some gameplay with commentary. So we'd like to continue on with that and try, you know, get some of because the decks that we were playing on those, some of them are like the tier 1 meta decks, but a few others were decks that we just wanted to showcase. Things were a little bit different. But we would like to get some of the, you know, classic matchups up there, like, you know, like Carol mentioned, the tier 1 decks playing against each other, or some rogue decks that you will likely pop up. And so it'd be a similar format where we'd record the games that we play and then sort of do some commentary afterwards, explaining why we did certain plays, cards to watch out for, you know, why we might have done something, and even like identify our own mistakes, because we always make mistakes in testing.
Yeah, and who is not keen to watch a wizard mirroring? Yeah. Especially in Blitz, you're just like, all right, guns blazing, you know who's going to shoot first.
Yeah, I'll give everyone a bit of a heads up. I did test I played 3 games Wizard Mirrors recently. Game 1 lasted 3 turns. Game 2 lasted 1 turn. And Game 2 lasted 2 turns. So they're fun to watch. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So
pure definition of Blitz.
Yeah, so that's something on a more general note, because we're just wanting to outline some things we'd like to do in 2021 for the channel. And Blitz gameplay, Blitz constructed videos are something we'd like to get out in the short term, but also in the long term. On the topic of gameplay videos, we'd like to get back into showcasing a few classic constructed matchups. So we've been more focused on Blitz here recently because, like we say, the calling's coming up, and LSS have been pushing the format for very good reason. But we do know there's a lot of people still playing classic constructed and online armories, just trying to get used to the format, the deck lists. So that's something we'd also like to do, particularly. I mean, probably some before Monarch, but particularly after Monarch, when like, you know, potentially new classes come out and a whole lot of different cards. So, and we have heard from people that they find the gameplay videos sort of very beneficial in the sense of learning. Because we do know on the podcast sometimes we do like to talk about theory, and we do our best to make it accessible as possible and go through different lines of play or scenarios. But I totally understand that sometimes it's difficult to just apply the theory to an abstract form. But we do still think those are very useful to listen to, but we do maybe to like supplement or complement that as well, having a gameplay video that you can go and watch and say, like, now I see what they're talking about. Like
theory and practice. Session blood.
Okay, yeah. So, now, and I know there was actually, no, we'll get back to that later. Oh, sorry, we'll leave that one.
Yeah.
But another thing we'd like to do in 2021 is some more tournament reviews. So did you want to talk a little bit about that? So you know how
I mean, with the upcoming calling, there's obviously the big one that's happening at the end of January, which is the Blitz calling. But it's a bit of a longer tournament. It's a bit more it's a bigger tournament than just the Blitz. We have the team sealed events and the kind of sealed Arcane Rising sealed event as well. So I think you can expect us to do a big overview of these kind of the top level matches, and we're going to do a lot of kind of tournament review style things where we take what happened at the calling and we basically discuss it. We see talk about the different strategies that were present there, talk about the top 8 games, and really just want to give you all the information we can. I mean, we're lucky enough to be here in person. So, yeah, basically this could be a good
opportunity to start it off because
So,
some of our sort of very old original podcasts, that's kind of how we started off. We went through things like the Road to Calling or Road to Nationals deck lists from New Zealand and overseas, and we like to, for sort of the more competitive or high level tournaments, really drill down into like some of the top 8 deck lists. Mm-hmm. So if we see certain like cards that we don't expect, we'll try and discuss why they might have been in there for. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about how the metagame sort of shook out this way, why one deck we feel did particularly well, all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. That's certainly something we'd like to do for the calling, but also as like fingers crossed the world starts to open up a bit more, and in-play tournaments, organised play gets going a bit overseas. That's something we'd really like to do for sort of international tournaments as well. Mm-hmm. So, ideally in places like Australia, the US, Europe, Malaysia, if we see tournaments pop up with like top 8 deck lists and things like that, that's something we'd like to cover in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
And because on that note, something we've been discussing as well when we're talking about our gameplay videos is we do want to find a way to try and sort of include our international viewers and listeners a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because we appreciate your support, and we know it's a little bit difficult right now, but we're definitely thinking about that. So whether it be, we'll invite people to jump in and feature in a gameplay video with us, or who knows, maybe even look at the results from an online tournament that pops up. Basically, we want to just try to get as many people involved as possible.
Yeah, and do let us know, because even if it's, something like a small online league that we could host and, kind of find some great matches from around the world and commentate them and kind of look what's happening, what strategies are developing around the world. Something like a Session Blood tournament type thing could be something that we get to do.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, because basically, like, don't be afraid to send us an email at sessionblood@gmail.com if you maybe you've just played a really good match and it's been recorded and you want to send it through to us to have a look at it. Mm-hmm. We could feature it on the channel, or you want to jump in and play a game against us and record it, anything like that. Basically, we just want to get involved and give back to all our international.
Yeah, it's obviously not easy to play the game that's designed to be played in person internationally, but we're working on a way to kind of include players from all around the world in a way to play against each other and feature some of those games
and just even showcase some of the the top international players, because like I mentioned, Tower Number 9's the online league that I think he created, or it's definitely a big driving force behind. I've watched a few videos from their gameplay videos and starting to see, I think, some really good players pop up. So yeah, we'd love to sort of showcase and give shout outs to people like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose kind of on that note, our kind of like big goal for 2021 at some point, and we still have to work through the logistics, but is to kind of host our own tournament here in New Zealand. We're not sure exactly what form that will take just yet. Like we say, we're sort of working through the details. But I believe a rough idea that we discussed was basically having an invite-only tournament for some of the best players in New Zealand. It's probably going to be restricted to New Zealand with borders closed, COVID, all that sort of thing. Basically, we would like to invite some of the best players in New Zealand to kind of battle it out in a tournament with get a streaming set up, and Carol and I will do the commentary, and we'll put up some cool prizes up for grabs as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just a great way for us to showcase, some of the matchups that we talked about, whether, the format could be Blitz, could be Classic Constructed.
Could be both. Could be both.
Could be both.
A little bit of both. But
yeah.
But like we said, details.
Yeah. We want to kind of get some great recorded games from the top players here that are around, and be able to kind of get you some top level content, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because we know people have been on the lookout for more streamed games, and we haven't really drawn up an invite list or spoken to players, but some names we throw out on the channel every so often. We speak about like Matt and Jacob and stuff, and we'll see if they want to play. But people that we often mention who might be like, who's that? Or you've seen like a passing reference. Just being able to see some of these like really top level players battle it out with each other at the highest level possible. We just think that'd be a really good opportunity for people to be able to watch some games and kind of learn from the best at the moment.
Exactly. And then as we go, we want to include the international players as well. So we're just working the logistics, but stay tuned, definitely.
And one thing that we're actually going to mention earlier, but I think we forgot, is for our patrons on Patreon, so just before we say all this, like all our normal content, like our podcasts, our YouTube videos, all that sort of thing, are always going to be free, so you can watch them. You don't have to sign up or pay anything. But we did just want to show our appreciation a little bit for our Patreon subscribers. So one thing we'd like to do going forward is send out a sort of monthly newsletter to our patrons. And again, we haven't sorted out exactly the form of that just yet, but it will be sort of going over the month that was in Fab.
Yeah.
So we'd look at maybe tournament results. We'd look at some decks, some of the best decks we've seen pop up in the meta,
and even just our own findings from testing. If we have a eureka moment with something, we're more than happy to share it with you guys.
Yeah, and just like if we see a cool deck idea or something we've been working on, just those sort of things, or basically just giving a little bit of extra sort of information, like from our testing, just things like that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we really want you guys to get better at the game and help you basically develop and your skills in the game as much as possible.
Yeah, and like we say, we're open to sort of sharing our knowledge with everyone, but just with the constraints, we literally can't say everything we want to in the podcast or gameplay videos. Like we often say we'll do like a 40-minute episode and it turns into like an hour and a half, then we have to stop. So the newsletter is just a way for us to give out that extra information and just show some appreciation to some of the people who've decided to give us a little bit of extra support.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel that pretty much brings us towards the end. Or I suppose one thing we're talking about, things we're looking forward to in 2021. Is there anything sort of in particular you're looking forward to, like whether it be from Monarch or from Future Set or Organized Play?
I feel like we're all excited about Monarch, and it's, this big unknown, this big thing coming up that, everyone's kind of shaking in their boots. For me personally...
That's a bit too mainstream for you, so...
It's a little bit too mainstream for me. But for me, my kind of pipe dream is Worlds.
You stole my one, but I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I love chatting with players from Europe, players from US, and just from kind of the approach to the game, I'm already noticing kind of like there's that different kind of ways to approach the game. You have someone who's extremely good with, say, like Ninja and your kind of community, the play group, and then everyone kind of shifts their play style towards that, and then they adjust back, and you kind of that's how I see this whole kind of like metagame thing develop depending on the country. But I feel like Worlds is the ultimate test where best players from all areas will get together and just showcase the best Flesh and Blood ever played.
And it'll be really good because you'll be playing against players you've probably never played before, or like you've never seen, you haven't seen their deck lists.
Exactly.
And so it takes out that sort of, it's a big unknown, because like Carol was mentioning, when you play with everyone in your local metagame all the time, Obviously, it's really great for the community, and you want to build up this community thing. But it does mean sometimes you can fall into the trap of thinking like, this is the meta game, or like, this is the way this deck is played. So I always have to play against it this way.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward, like you said, to Worlds. I've never played it like a World Champs level event for any competitive card game. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Sort of, it'll be interesting to see if some of the individual countries have their own testing groups. So do it as a group or it splinters off into factions. That's something I'm really looking forward to, seeing international players, their takes on new decks. We've heard one of our good friends, Tom, has played a few games against some of the Malaysian players in Blitz, and there was a dash deck he called the Malaysian Special, I think. It was
the Malaysian Special.
It was this like super aggro dash deck with pummels and Best of the First Fist, and like I think he played it and like lost a couple of games. He was like, I've never seen that before. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, all that sort of thing will be just, I think, really cool to look forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also, we've seen the game kind of develop in countries like the UK, the US,
Australia, Malaysia, Taiwan.
But I'm also keen to see what happens in, Canada's growing. You see all these kind of smaller countries in Europe pick up the game and really have like a thirst for the game. So I've heard of, it popping up in Brazil and rest of South America. So there's still a lot to there's a lot of growth to happen, and I mean it is happening, and it's really cool to see. But yeah, that's just kind of, I can't wait to see what happens in the other countries in 2021.
Yeah, because I've seen local groups pop up for like all these different regions in the United States, but also ones for like Belgium, Germany, Poland. Shout out Polska.
Shout out.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting because I think it's still dominated largely by a few regions, but I think in 2021 we're going to see like people from everywhere jump in, which is really cool. And at Worlds there's a certain Australian player who's been calling me out, so you know who you are. Look forward to seeing you there. But yeah, no, it's all in good fun, and I think Fab is just going to get bigger and better going into 21. So honestly, I think that was going to be my thing as well. Worlds and seeing organised play develop and grow stronger overseas, because at the moment, I feel the competitive scene here is really strong in New Zealand, but you do kind of get the sense a little bit right now that you could be kind of like a big fish in a small pond kind of thing. Just because I would say New Zealand, a lot of people say like we're ahead or like kind of the best at the moment, but I think that's more a function of us just being able to play the game full on for like so much longer than everywhere else. And, not meaning this in any negative way, but I can't wait for that gap to close a little bit. Just as other people are able to experience and play the game more, I'm certain, like 100% certain, that we're going to see some really, really top players internationally, giving us Kiwis and Aussies a good run for our money, and I can't wait for that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people around the world are putting in the reps, I'm already scared to be
honest. Yeah, we'll just have Worlds in New Zealand,
Yeah, but can't wait.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much brings us to the end of our episode. So a bit of a shorter one today, less strategy focused, but we just wanted to give thanks to everyone, have a quick look back at 2020, and really let you know what we've got in store for 2021 and show how excited we are for the year ahead.
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.